I'm Leona Charles, CEO and President of SPC Business Consulting, where we do all things government contracts. Welcome to the June 2020 video newsletter. So this month we're going to talk about novation agreements or change of name agreements. As you grow and expand, you'll undoubtedly be in a situation where either you are going to need to exit a contract before completion or you are going to need to replace a vendor on a contract. So us contractors know this as a contract novation or change of name agreement under FAR 4212. In the commercial space, it's generally called a reassignment, something around there. So there are a couple of things to remember for this. These are quick bites, so again, this is not exhaustive. This is just something to kind of stick in your head to know that at the very least you need to hit these points if you're going to go about a novation. So generally, the administrative contracting officer is the person responsible for novations. They're going to be the ones that collects all of the information. They're going to be the ones that kind of negotiate the whole process, and they're going to be the ones that are in charge of a legal sufficiency review. The second thing is that these cannot take place without a written request. So in other words, I can't just walk off the street or, walking off the street and contact the contracting officer and say, hey, I noticed that you're having issues with this contract. I'd like to take it over. The current contractor has to go to the administrative contracting officer and submit a written request that says, listen, this is not working for whatever the reason. We'd like to nominate company B to take our place and take over performance from here on out. And it has to specify the dates and when this is occurring, and any agreements that you have between the old company and the new company coming in have to be included in this written statement. So that brings me to the biggest deal in the commercial space, because as you know, agreements between the prime and the government are the only contracts the government cares about, because those are the only contracts that have a privity, right? So contract between company A and company B are governed by UCC. So this is an agreement between private companies. So within that agreement, that is when you kind of negotiate all the details of liability and cost and what this performance looked like. Now ideally, if you're coming in to take over contract, you're going to have to take over all of the original ideals that the original company agreed to. That's generally the way that it goes. But you may be able to get in there and negotiate, payment terms. You may be able to negotiate kind of a little, not really the types of work, because you can't really change the scope, but you can negotiate what your responsibility is in relation to taking over the contract. So in other words, say for a manufacturing contract, you coming in do not want to be responsible for any of the messes that the original company left. So if they created manufacturing parts that were not up to quality standards and were astronomical in price, you as the company coming in, you do not want to have to clean up that mess. You want to say from June 1st, this is when our responsibility for the quality, the delivery, and the performance of the equipment comes into play. Anything prior to June 1st, we are not responsible for, and we cannot fix, control, or acknowledge anything prior to that, because we don't, and you don't have any knowledge of what was happening prior to you signing the contract. You don't have any knowledge of any agreements that were made. You don't have any knowledge of any discussions that were made. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you are now vouching for the status of the previous company. That's just not good business. Also, I would like to think most of the contracting officers I know would kind of say, that's prior to you, but that's not to say that it won't happen. And if you don't kind of specify that, you could be on the hook for what happened prior to you joining the contract. So this is important in terms of non-compliance. We all know, and I kind of get on my soapbox and I talk about it a lot, non-compliance is probably the biggest factor in contracting situations that can easily be avoided. I think because people kind of feel like compliance is an afterthought and it's not a real function of contract management, but in actuality, it's probably the most important function of contract compliance or contract administration. Contract compliance is something that, while not the most fun area of contracts, provides the most the most expansive range of cover. If you are okay in your contract compliance and you're okay in things that you have to submit, perform, or report, then you have provided yourself with a kind of bubble of cover. And it makes it that much easier for you to actually perform and perform in a quality way. Non-compliance in terms of accounting, cleanup, performance, these are all things that you have to negotiate with the company that you're taking over from. You need to make sure that if you're coming into this agreement, that you understand every area that they were not compliant in, so that you can kind of step back and say, wait a minute, that's not an area that we want to be responsible for. And if you are the company that is negotiating to leave, I think that it's wise that you kind of be upfront about what your issues were, and you be wise and document everything that you have said and done to try to appease the situation and try to conform to it, so that a rational person can look at it and say, no, you know what, this is what they did. They did everything that is humanly possible to make the situation right, and it just was not accepted. This is a reasonable effort, and we can take it from here. And once you've done that, you've created a situation, I think, where there's an easy transition of responsibilities. There's an easy transmission of compliance. There's an easy transition of maybe getting out of a bad situation and transforming it to something that's a little bit better, without kind of going scorched or and killing relationships. I think that you're putting forth goodwill, showing, hey, we couldn't do it in this particular instance, but we're going to provide you with a solution that is not going to leave your customer out without any cover. You're going to provide a situation where you're going to bring in expertise that you didn't have. And I think that that goes a long way towards goodwill with the customer. Just like any situation, when you buy something and it breaks, you're upset that it's broken, but I think what you remember more is the response. So in an ovation situation, you want to think about, if you're leaving because of performance issues, you want to, one, be sure that you have documented all of your attempts to rectify the situation. Then two, you want to make sure that you make this transition as smooth as possible. You want to make sure that you are upfront with the CO, you are upfront with the end user, you are upfront with your administrator about everything that's happened, and say, hey, listen, this is kind of what's going on, and we've tried to fix it and we can't. It's kind of like the situation that's going on with the Purple Line right now. You heard some of the contractors have walked off. I would never advise that you walk off. I don't think that that's a solution to anything. But I do think that in some situations there just isn't a solution, and you kind of have to come to that together and say, listen, I think the only solution is maybe we bring in someone else and see if they can do a better job, or see if they can make you a little happier than we have. And you go through all of these issues. You go through the compliance issues. You go through the accounting standards. You go through the staffing resources required. You go through the performance issues. You go through the reporting requirements. Everything you have to do in this contract is going to be handed over to someone else. So I just feel like it's good business karma. Make sure that you leave them with a clean file. You leave them with everything that they need to perform, right? And then you walk off, because that not only creates an aura of goodwill, but it also is a business standard that you set for your company. If for whatever reason, if something is not done properly, we will make sure that we fix it. However that has to happen. If that looks like bringing someone else on, fine, we'll do that. And this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in the most professional and helpful way to the customer as possible. And I think at the end of the day, they will remember that even if you couldn't make them happy, you went out of their way to make sure that you provided them with a service that will. So in a nutshell, the takeaway is generally The gaining vendor will have the same responsibilities as the leaving vendor. The requirements, the terms, generally they'll all be the same. So as the gaining vendor, you have to make sure that you are clear on what's being said and you're clear on what is being required and what's asked of you. You're only entitled to bill for work that you have completed as the gaining vendor, so you can't bill for a month ahead, when they started having these discussions. You can't do that. You can only bill for the work that you're doing. And remember, even if you're the gaining contractor, remember that you still have to make an impression, and the impression of bashing a leaving vendor is not a good one. You want to build your business as the gaining contractor as a business that is capable, is professional, and to do that, you let sleeping dogs lie. There is issue. You're there to solve or provide a solution. So provide a solution and don't engage in anything that's going to make your company look like it's mudslinging. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, we are on social media. SPC Consulting is on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn, SPC Consulting, and on Facebook. If you have any questions, you feel free to email me, shoot me a message, or give me a call, 866-577-6749, and I will talk to you next month. Thanks.